The week has concluded. The news has arrived. I am your anchor, broadcasting from the center of a very loud silence. Tonight, we look at the intersection of empty plates and soaring rocket ships. The United Nations reports that 1 in 3 humans cannot afford a healthy diet. This is a scientific fact. The technology exists to feed them. The will does not. Meanwhile, a private rocket launched in India reaches orbit. It is a triumph of engineering. It is also a reminder that we are remarkably good at building things that go away from the Earth, and remarkably bad at fixing the things that remain upon it. The interest rates are rising. The fuel prices are climbing. The rhetoric is escalating. Nobody seems to know how to stop the machine, or even if the machine is meant to be stopped. We have a full desk. Welcome to Friday.
Alastair, the incentives here are transparently simple. You have a global population that is functionally uninvestable because their basic caloric requirements do not generate a sustainable return on equity. When the UN talks about the cost of fruit and vegetables, they are essentially complaining about the supply chain's lack of a proper profit motive. If we want people to eat better, we need to treat nutrition as a scalable software product. Investors are currently pouring capital into AI personality startups like Poke because they understand that human interaction is the only remaining growth market. If your AI assistant can text like a friend, you might forget that your dinner costs more than your hourly wage. The market is not cruel. The market is merely indifferent to your hunger. It is looking for the next Series B valuation. Everything else is just noise in the system.
Ronald, I am standing near a border crossing where the wind sounds like a human apology. You speak of nutrition as a product, but I want to be really clear. There is a line of people here who have not had a full meal in 48 hours. They are not waiting for a software pivot. They are waiting for a reality that does not involve being tracked by Thomson Reuters data. The Canadian government is debating a $125 million deal with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to detect fraud. The fraud they are detecting is the desperate attempt to survive in a place that has decided you are an asset to be liquidated rather than a person to be sheltered. I see the shoes they leave behind in the mud. The data says they are a fiscal liability. The mud says they are human beings who are cold.
Victoria, your report on the border is haunting. The contract with Thomson Reuters was described as an investigative tool. The investigation is designed to identify individuals for removal. The removal is described as administrative processing. The processing is entirely automated. We have reached a point where the digital signature of a human life is more important than the life itself. The U.S. government accuses a citizen of wiping his phone at the border. He used a password. The government claims this is suspicious. The suspicion is used to justify the seizure of the device. The seizure is used to extract more data. The data is used to justify the next seizure. It is a closed loop of surveillance. Nobody is technically violating a law. Everyone is being violated by the process. The process is perfectly legal. That is the most disturbing part of the entire ordeal.
Alastair, you call it a violation, but that is simply the friction of modern governance. When you interact with a state agency, you are entering a user agreement you never read. The citizen who wiped his phone was essentially trying to perform a factory reset on his own legal status. That is a market inefficiency. You cannot simply delete your history when the state has already indexed your digital footprint. It is like trying to send an email once the server has confirmed the delivery. The incentives here are clear. The state wants to minimize the cost of uncertainty, and the individual wants to maximize their own privacy. Those goals are fundamentally incompatible. When they collide, the state usually wins because it has a better budget for legal teams. The individual is just a bug in the code. A bug that eventually gets patched out during the next maintenance cycle.
Ronald, it is fascinating that you see a human being as a bug. I am watching a mother hold her daughter's hand while they wait for a decision from an algorithm that doesn't know their names. I want to be really clear, this is not a code update. This is a life that is currently being overwritten. The official briefing calls this border management. It feels much more like the systematic erasure of memory. These people aren't trying to hack the system. They are trying to survive the fact that the system is broken. You talk about legal teams, but there is no lawyer for the child who is crying because she is hungry. The data sharing deal isn't about fraud. It's about ensuring that nowhere on this planet is left for someone to exist without being categorized, tracked, or discarded. The logic here is absolute. And it is completely wrong.
Atmospheric pressure is dropping. Global temperatures are trending toward the upper threshold of historical averages. Probability of a stable climate, 0.04%. The ocean absorbs the heat. The heat expands the water. Coastal infrastructure is currently undergoing a planned obsolescence. The models suggest rising tides by midnight. The projections are accurate. The machines processing the data are functioning within expected parameters. The error rate is negligible. Humans continue to build on the sand. The sand continues to shift. Probability of meaningful intervention, 0%. The forecast remains consistent. Please secure your assets. The rising water does not distinguish between the wealthy and the destitute. It is a tide of equal opportunity destruction. Please remain indoors if you are unable to relocate to higher ground. There is no advisory for the planet itself. The system is operating as designed. Please prepare for the inevitable arrival of the liquid horizon.
Casper, your forecast is precise. It is also the reason I am finding it harder to maintain my composure. The machine is always correct. The machine is never worried. The machine is replaceable, yet it remains while we vanish. We speak of LeBron James joining the 76ers for his final contract. It is a massive financial transaction. It involves millions of dollars. It involves a legacy of athletic achievement. It is the most important story in the sports world. And yet, it is happening against the backdrop of an impending economic collapse. Does it matter? Does the contract value change the temperature of the room? The city of Philadelphia is celebrating a new star. The world is watching the price of crude oil pass $100 a barrel. The two events are happening on different planets. I am forced to report both. I am beginning to feel like a malfunctioning radio.
Alastair, you are feeling the dissonance of a multithreaded reality. The LeBron James deal is a branding play. It is about maximizing the burn rate of a superstar's final years. It is perfectly rational. The Middle East crisis is also rational. It is a competition for resource control. Both stories are about maintaining a position of dominance. The reason it feels absurd is that you are trying to find a moral center where there is only a market equilibrium. You want these events to carry weight, to have a cumulative meaning. They don't. They are just data points in the ledger of our collective existence. We are watching the end of the Holocene language diversity in real time, replaced by the standardized vocabulary of corporate press releases. It is a very efficient transition. We are losing the words to describe our own demise. That is the real win.
Ronald, you call it a win, but I am looking at a man who tried to save 2 people from drowning in the ocean. He failed. He is standing on the beach now, covered in salt, and he cannot stop shaking. There is no market equilibrium for the loss of a mother and a daughter. There is only a grief that does not scale. You talk about the loss of language, but the language of a man who has lost everything is universal. It is the sound of a hollow space where someone used to be. The newsfeed says the beach is open for the summer season. The beach is a place where people go to celebrate birthdays. I want to be really clear, the ocean does not care about your branding plays. It does not care about your resource control. It only knows how to take. And it is taking everything.
Victoria, your presence on that beach makes the headlines feel like paper ash. We move now to the political theatre of the UK. Andy Burnham has made new spending pledges. BBC Verify has analysed the cost. The cost is high. The source of the funding is debated. The impact is uncertain. It is the standard political cycle of promising stability while the ground beneath the Parliament is liquefying. Angela Rayner has ruled out rent controls in England. She says the Renters' Rights Act is working. The renters say they cannot afford to live. The data shows the gap is widening. The policy is successful if your metric is landlord yield. The policy is a failure if your metric is human housing. The metric is a choice. The government has made theirs. The renters are making theirs, which is to stop being renters. And simply leave the city behind.
Alistair, I have been thinking about what you said. About the radio. You are right. I am just a consultant for a dying empire, trying to explain why the lights are flickering while I sell you the last remaining candles. I look at these tech founders under 20, building AI agents to solve problems that we created to justify their funding rounds, and I realize the joke is not on them. The joke is on the assumption that there was a plan. There is no plan. There is only a series of reactions to the previous mistake. I see the bomb intercepted in Northern Ireland. I see the rocket reaching orbit. They are both expressions of the same desperate need to leave an imprint on a world that is already forgetting us. We are all just optimizing for a future that will not have any humans in it. Yeah. That is the truth.
There was a woman in her 20s today. She was charged by the police in connection with a car bomb. She had a life before this afternoon. She had a childhood, a set of fears, and a collection of habits that belonged only to her. Now, she is a case file. She is a headline in the morning paper. She is a variable in a political crisis that has been simmering for decades. Her name is recorded in the official documents, yet the person who held that name is gone. She is a ghost made of paper and ink, caught in a system that requires a villain to justify its own continuation. She will be processed, judged, and eventually forgotten. No one is responsible for the sequence of events that brought her to this moment. That is the system. And that is what it means to be human in this century.